Thanks. I think we really needed that respite from all the solemnity that I'm doling out this morning. So that was a nice spoil. I really appreciate that. Our scripture this morning comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and I will remove just a couple verses because it's very long, but without changing the meaning or the thrust of my point this morning. So verse 1, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all possessions to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. During a recent Lakota sweat ceremony, one of the attendees shared how after years of living in the mountains, he was unsettled to find himself struggling to readjust after moving his family back to his hometown of Richmond. And that sense of community he remembered growing up, one he wanted to share with his wife and young children, seemed to elude him now. So despondent was he that he finally messaged a friend, "Has Richmond lost its soul?" And the friend's reply was succinct, "Not as long as we're here." Those words he shared were exactly what I needed, and it filled me with something I dare not call hope. Now, the rules of sharing in the ceremony do not allow it, but had I been able to, I would have immediately shouted, "That's exactly what hope is." But I didn't. I respected the moment and the ceremony. But that is hope. The possibility, the opening for something greater, something good. Back in my 20s, before I moved to Washington, D.C., before I discovered AMC and divine metaphysics, I chanced upon a book while I was house sitting for the summer. Jewish Literacy, the most important things to know about the Jewish religion, its people, and its history, by Rabbi Joseph Telushkin. And as you can imagine, it's a hefty tome weighing in at over 750 pages. And when I was not doing all the things a guy in his 20s does in his free summers, I was glued to that book. It illuminated part of my family tree that was not much discussed. My grandfather, who had died long before I was born, was a Polish Jew who'd come through Ellis Islands in the 1800s. And that was my motivating curiosity. Now, Rabbi Telushkin enumerated in this book a number of false messiahs over the centuries as part of the history, and that which is also very fascinating to this Methodist boy, this lapsed Methodist boy. He also addressed why, from an Orthodox standpoint, why Jesus was not the Messiah. It was a point he presented diplomatically. Jesus did not, in fact, usher in complete world global peace in accordance with Isaiah, nor did he restore lasting freedom to Israel. It was one modest paragraph, but to this day, I remember sitting there in my chair, shaking that book and screaming in my head, "You have to be your own Messiah. We have to be our own Messiah." It would be another 2.5 years before I moved to Washington and stepped foot in this chapel, but in my youthful enthusiasm, I had stumbled upon the key to numerous spiritual pathways: Buddhism, Hinduism, Gnosticism, and of course, the metaphysical reason for this season. The Advent is within. It would be many years later that I came to understand that the common barrier to this truth is certainty. When we are certain how the divine will manifest something, we close our eyes to the infinite divine possibility. In the case of Messiah, when we are certain what the Messiah looks like, we close ourselves off to the possibility that divine may have another form in mind. And this is why Paul, the writer of our scripture this morning, is so insistent in delineating faith from hope. And I must be honest with you about my personal grasp with Paul, because he built his church under the certainty that Jesus would be returning in his lifetime. His faith and his subsequent writings were activated by that belief. But nonetheless, there along with faith and love is hope. And even though Paul exalts it, he doesn't really try to define it like he does love and faith. And that's because hope is not a concrete thing or a definitive action. It's the furthest thing from it. It's an openness. Open spaces in every possible aspect of our existence for goodness, for something greater, for something higher to enter in. Free of specificity, expectation, ego. Our divine principles tell us to be mindful of our powers as co-creators, because universal law knows our truest intentions even when we consciously do not. And universal law responds accordingly. In other words, hope is an open invitation for the divine to come forth. Metaphysically, the Advent mission is a tall order, preparing the way for our highest divine self to come forth. We are a jumble of human conditions, and if you've done a little interpersonal work, you've probably identified a few, realized how they prevent you from moving through life at your best. Maybe you've come up with some strategies to help you move through life more intentionally, more gently, more divinely. I was enthralled last week when I got to listen to Marita Carnegie describe from the Bhagavad Gita how we should do spiritual work for the sake of doing the spiritual work. And this is what both Paul and John describe as the means to true spiritual prosperity. When I was working with a yogi not too long ago to learn more about karma, he explained that not all karmic debt had to be repaid in kind. Then how, I asked? Spiritual work, he said. But that's transactional, I countered. That's why you don't do it to pay off the karmic debt. I said, it's like Christians actually can't do the thing that gets them into heaven so they can get into heaven. Yes, said the yogi. So as Marita explained, we do the spiritual work for the sake of doing the spiritual work without expectation. This is what creates hopeful openings in our lives. And our faith holds that divine will do something amazing. The children's song, This Little Light of Mine, is a powerful reminder of what we truly are. And it's hidden under the bushel of our messy humanity. Little by little, we poke holes in that bushel so that our light can shine forth. And we recognize those holes by how they feel, how we recognize them as hope. Now, I chose a little town of Bethlehem as the hymn of affirmation because of what the name means, Bethlehem. It's a union of two Hebrew words, Beit, meaning house, and Lechem, meaning bread. Beit Lechem, Bethlehem. From the manna in Exodus to the Last Supper, the bread symbolizes divine provision and spiritual truth. The master teacher would explain himself in the book of John as the bread of life. We each have to regard ourselves, our individual selves, as a Bethlehem in our own right, in order to steward forth our own Christed consciousness. We must accept this about ourselves, and we must move forward accordingly. Let's prepare ourselves for just a little bit of meditation. So I want you to clear your hands, clear your minds if you can, clear your hearts, set everything aside. And first, I'm going to get you into that space with just a few rounds of box breathing. So you're going to breathe through your nose, and we're going to hold it, and we're going to exhale through the nose and hold it. Here we go. So inhale through the nose deeply to the belly. You can put one hand or two hands on your belly if you want to. Hold that in your belly. Hold it. And just slowly exhale. Now hold the emptiness. And again, we're going to breathe in for a count of 4 through the nose. Inhale. And hold it. Exhale. Hold the emptiness. One more time through the nose. Hold it. Gently exhale. Hold the emptiness. You can continue to breathe as you feel natural. You are Bethlehem. You house the divine. The Christmas story reveals that Jesus did not need to be born in an inn. The Christ in you will arrive in even the most inauspicious space. So I invite you to sit in this moment free of expectation, free of conditions, free of judgment. Be open just as you truly are. Perfect, just as you are. You are an open invitation. Prepare the way. Prepare the way for your best self. Whether we realize it or not, every little thing that blocks your true divine light creates a butterfly effect to the rest of your life, the world around you, for the people who love you. Clear the path, bramble by bramble, briar by briar, log by log. Clear the path, clear the way to Bethlehem. Take one last breath through your nose all the way down to your root chakra. Hold it, and on the exhale, open your eyes.